What food made you think? How the frick did our ancestors found out this was edible? Castoreum, a sweet tasting exudation that comes from glands near a beaver's butthole. Dang, this beaver butt smells great. Wonder what it tastes like? Well, that one's pretty easy to guess. Native Americans or perhaps European fur trappers cooked and ate different parts of the beaver. Then one day, one of them happened to get this weird sweet taste and started experimenting by eating different bits one at a time until they pinpointed the location. Bada bing, bada boom, bit of a big beaver butt bite. The cassava. However, cassava is poisonous unless it is peeled and thoroughly cooked. If it is eaten raw or prepared incorrectly, one of its chemical constituents will be attacked by digestive enzymes and give off the deadly poison cyanide. As little as 2 cassava roots can contain a fatal dose. Poke salad. The pokeberry pokeweed plant that grows in the southern US has edible leaves. Sort of. If you eat them raw, they contain an neurotoxin that will make you extremely sick or more likely kill you. If you cook them, the toxin will still kill you. If you boil them, the toxin will still kill you. So basically someone died after eating this stuff and their friends went, well, maybe if we boil it one more time, died, and someone else went, 3rd time's the charm. However, if you boil them, discard the water, boil again, discard the water, then boil one last time and discard the water again, the leftover cooked plant is sort of edible. To add to the fun, you also have to pick the right part of it. You need to pick the young shoots before they have any red in the stems, or the boiling just won't cut it. Acorns. How hungry one must be to figure out to pound them to powder and leach out the tannins. 3 times. Came here to say that, at Yosemite, I saw a demonstration of how the locals leached acorns. The process is days long, with many steps. Also, how the heck did Stone Age man discover nixtamalization of corn? If you don't do it, and you rely on corn as a primary food, you get a nasty deficiency disease, pellagra. Harkerel. Usually poisonous, unless prepared thus. The traditional method is by gutting and beheading a Greenland or sleeper shark and placing it in a shallow hole dug in gravelly sand, with the now clean cavity resting on a small mound of sand. The shark is then covered with sand and gravel, and stones are placed on top of the sand in order to press the shark. In this way the fluids are pressed out of the body. The shark ferments in this fashion for 6-12 weeks depending on the season. Following this curing period, the shark is then cut into strips and hung to dry for several months. During this drying period, a brown crust will develop, which is removed prior to cutting the shark into small pieces and serving. 2. I've tried this. It's not even that good. It tastes like blue cheese but moodier and fishier. It also tastes and smells like ammonia, coming from the fact that a shark's bladder closes up when it dies. Pufferfish. Only a small part of the fish is edible and the rest is deadly poisonous. So how did they find out which bit was edible? Trial and error. The fruit of the jimpy plant. It is also known as the suicide plant because its sting is so painful that there have been reports of people and animals killing themselves to escape the pain, which can last for days or even years. The sting is delivered by tiny hairs that cover the whole plant. Yet someone was able to discover that if you painstakingly remove each hair from the fruit, it is edible. Cashews. First, they come from a drupe that grows out of a false fruit called the cashew apple. So right off the bat, you'd never guess that it would be the part you'd eat. Cashew apples look kind of like a cross between an apple and a red bell pepper, just with a big, ugly dark brownish cashew in place of a stem. Second, the shells of cashew drupes contain a substance that causes rashes and chemical burns on skin. So before you can even think of eating a cashew seed, which is what cashew nuts actually are, it has to go through a multi-step steaming and roasting process, just to totally burn off all the irritants. Liefish, or lutefisk. Don't get me wrong, I love the stuff, but man, first you go get a fish, then you let it hang on a stick for months to dry out, then you put it in water for a couple days, then you put it in water with lye for another couple days, then you put it in pure water again, and then you cook it and eat it. Sea urchin. I was going to post this. I had it on sashimi before. Not bad, but not good either. Regardless, the crap looks deadly when you see it in the water. Once you realize how rare food really is in the wild for every 365 days, it makes a lot more sense. Starvation and famine was a regular event for most of human history. Lose your own stash of food for a couple days and you'll eat all sorts of things. I can't remember the exact quote, but in some Michael Pollan documentary or book he says something to the effect that sugar, salt and fat occur extremely rarely in nature. So our bodies are programmed to want as much of those things as we can get. In our modern world where you have pretty much instant access to all of those things, boom, obesity epidemic. Artichoke, that purple thistle looks good. Chili peppers, like imagine finding this pepper, taking a bite, and then feeling your entire mouth feel like it is on fire. Then you decide it's actually really good though and start including it into dishes to add spice. Consider that hot peppers fail every single edibility test. It irritates the skin, mouth, and bowels. By any survival guides methods, you should not eat this thing. But we ate that crap anyway, probably on a dare. Oysters. Someone looked at that snotty looking thing from a shell and thought, yeah, I'm gonna put that in my mouth. Looks just like jellified grey sneezing matter from inside a seashell. Bound to taste salty. Do when it goes. Ugh, get me some lemon. Kasumazu. It's cheese with live maggots living in it. Mag and cheese. Lobsters. Well, this looks horrifying. I think I'll taste it. Left double quotation mark. Some mushrooms that require special preparation. Eat it raw or cook it like most other shrooms and you end up dead. Boil it 3-5 times however, and it's fine. Cheese. Like did someone leave milk out, and when it turned into nasty looking cheese and then they were like, I am gonna eat that? Damn. The milk turned hard and stinks of teenage sneakers. Somehow compelled to taste the thing. Nopales. A kind of cactus, and its fruit have been a staple in Mexico for millennia. I've always wondered what went through our ancestors' heads. That plant and its fruit is covered in thorns. I bet they're delicious. Probably I've been in this freaking desert for 2 freaking weeks, and I'm out of freaking food and god's freaking damn it there's a lot of needles I've got to pluck out of these death apples. Yogurt and cheese. It's like first of all they start drinking cow juice from cow titties. Then they save some for later. It goes off. Voila cheese. Not even just that. Cheese needs rennet from an animal's stomach to turn into cheese. They were storing milk or curds or something in a nasty but improperly cured goat stomach or something and then decided to eat it when it turned solid. Coffee. Can't eat the beans as is. Gotta roast them first. Whoops. Not yet. Gotta grind them. Not quite right yet. Let's pour water over them and drink the water. Let's try using hot water. Perfect. Bread. Like how did someone put all the ingredients together to make the bread? I think about it all the time. Bro, it's just 3 wheat. Truffles. If the pigs are eating it, it must be freaking delicious. Not exactly a food, but see, I saw a show going through the process of making it. All I can think is, how did someone come up with the idea of mix stuff like gasoline and battery acid together and then dry it up to powder they could sniff? How? That last part is chemistry. The fact that the raw plant has stimulant feel-good properties was known for long time. Blue cheese. Yes, this. Like who looked at a piece of moldy cheese and was like this is some seriously gourmet st. Durian. It's super spiky. It seems like it'd be tough to open, though I'm not 100% sure, and apparently it smells rank. Not even ancestors. How did drinks like Guinness or Coke become a thing? Bro, try this up. No, that drink is black. Yeah, good call. Vegemite is the same principle, but in that case it was literally created as a prank from brewery waste products, but then the pranky went it's not bad though. Actually, I think I just answered the question. They did it on accident or were tricked goaded into trying it. They did, and when it didn't kill them the consumable caught on. I've had the same thought about any booze that has aged, like scotch. You can imagine the scene. Some very thirsty ancient Scots come across a barrel in a cave. A barrel everyone had forgotten about. Let's see if it is still any good. Imagine the wide-eyed looks exchanged between the first tasters of that barrel. Heart of palm. Ugh. I'm bored. I'm gonna eat this tree now. I know for other trees with edible hearts, Like bananas, you have to cut it down after you get a bunch anyway so it can come again next season. When you're cutting down the tree, might as well try to use up what you can. The wood's pretty crap for building, but if you peel back enough layers it gets squishy and soft, like a cucumber. Super easy to eat, even raw, and even easier to cook. Fugu. Like how did they find out that only a specific part of a blowfish wasn't poisonous when correctly cut? Yup, this freaked up fish seems absolutely normal to eat. Pokeweed. People still eat poke salad today, and you have to boil the pokeweed 3 times to make it not be poisonous. Who watched their fellow tribesmen die after boiling it twice and thought maybe 3 times will do it? Honey. When something is guarded by swarms of easily pee off insects with poisoned bug darts, you would think that would be enough of a deterrent that nobody would frick with it. Chocolate. Snails. Our ancestors must have been friggin' starving. Snails are actually considered to be the first domesticated species. They're pretty easy to keep, not like they can really escape. Lobster. Let's eat this spider from the sea. I think about it every time I see a lobster. It's the perfect example of food that we learned we could eat out of necessity. Nobody pulled a lobster out of the water and thought, ooh, that looks tasty. It had to be more like I gotta try to find a way to bust this sucker open and try to eat it so I don't die. Rice. Who looked at a piece of thick grass and thought, yeah, I'll dry it out, bash it about then polish it and boil it just before it turns into a sloppy mess. And risotto. Maybe instead of taking it out before it becomes a sloppy mess, let's take it out after. Caviar. I imagine them say yum fish eggs and eating them, and then selling that to rich people. Caviar used to be poor people food, until it was not. Maple syrup. Let's poke a hole in this here tree, collect the sap, boil it for 3 days and see what happens. Noodles. Like who thought of swinging the dough to make them stringy? Most foods came about from happy accidents. You might have accidentally left something out. It ferments, and you eat it because you have nothing else. Voila, there's bread. But I think people also underestimate how much the human body is conditioned to tell us when something is edible. All our senses are designed to communicate if we can eat something. First, does it look right? Most fruit looks great. We know what a good fruit looks like. Next is smell. Does it smell right? A fruit might look good, but smell rotten, and that is our body telling us not to eat it. Finally we have taste. Does it taste really bad? If it tastes bad, good chances it is bad for you. There is also the matter that many foods you can consume in small quantities and they will make you mildly sick. Then big quantities will make you very sick. Our ancestors probably tested a few things, and if they made you throw up, you knew not to eat those anymore. Think about it though. Most animals don't have anything but instinct, and they still know what to eat or not eat. Even if nobody told you to not eat a maggoty lamb shank, you probably would avoid it just because of your instincts. Humans are still animals, and we can figure things out based off instincts. There are a few outliers to these situations, but for the most part I think we figured out most of our diet these ways. Many incredible answers here. I've always wondered how many poor saps croak just finding out what not to eat. Olives. They have to be soaked in a brine of lye before they are edible, or they can be poisonous. Who was the poor guys testing this out for the people wanting so much to eat those nasty tasting little things anyway? Doesn't have to be lye or even salt water. Crack 'em with a hammer to expose the flesh inside, and just soak it in water. The bitter leaches out. Century egg. Basically you preserve an egg in some mud or clay for a few months. It turns a nasty blue-gray color. Apparently it's a Chinese delicacy too. I saw it in a video on YouTube and it confuses me to no end. It tastes great but you keep it in its shell. It is amazing. I have always loved it as a child. If a Chinese styled porridge or congee does not have it I will eat it out the window. Twice boiled greens. Like who watched someone die and went, just try it again. Cranberries. If I had tasted a cranberry without any knowledge of the berry, I would be certain it was poison. Onions. Wonder if I can eat this bulb. Oh my god, my eyes. What's that smell? Oh god, this plant is making me cry. Quick, eat it before it does something else. Kopi Luwak coffee. Ah yes, Let's take the shitted coffee beans that this cat-like thing ate and make them into coffee anyway. You have been visited by the wealth rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.